Welcome to another episode of Casual Cinephilia, where enthusiastic amateurs talk very passionately about movies. I'm Ian.
I'm Lorian, and today we're talking about Shazam.
Which I have been looking forward to for quite a while. DC has been on a better path with Aquaman and Wonder Woman, but they've been in a rocky state. And so I've been really hoping for Shazam to be really good.
Right.
And I enjoyed it. I thought it was a fun action superhero romp. I thought Zachary Levi, is it Levi? Levi? Zachary Levi. I thought he was fun in it. I liked his character. I don't know, I just had an all-around good time with it.
I liked it. Here's the thing. I haven't liked DC since I was in high school. I'm sick of the dark stories. I was really, really into DC when I was younger.
Yeah.
Like the brooding and the taking itself seriously. And this one wasn't that. Mm-hmm. But just like going into a DC movie, I'm always a little bit like, oh, okay, here we go. Yeah. And I really like Zachary Levi from all the various nerd crap he's into, and Broadway. He's got a good spread of talents for me.
Is he in Broadway?
Yeah, he's been on Broadway.
That's
like
awesome.
Full-on musicals.
That's awesome. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Very talented guy, multifaceted.
Yeah.
And I did like this. I thought it was well acted. I thought the plot was fun. I thought they pushed a few things farther than they needed to. I felt like it had kind of a junior high sensibility with where it needed to go to be cool.
Yeah.
You know, like, I really, really wanted to love this movie. And as soon as they started heightening the volume of the Christmas music over the dramatic car crash, I was like, oh.
Yeah, that was weird. I'll admit that was weird.
And the, like, cursing Santa Claus, I was like, oh, come on. I mean... Yeah.
That was a running joke that didn't need to be running.
I haven't read the comics. Like I say, I've not been into DC for a long time. You have read what this was based on.
Well, and it was almost panel for panel a recreation of the New 52 Shazam. The reboot of the modern reboot of Shazam, or Captain Marvel.
Right.
And it was weird because I knew what was going to happen because, so DC's been good at it, and Marvel's been good at taking elements from comic book lines.
Right.
And so that's what I was expecting. I was like, I saw the family. I was like, okay, so this is the new 52 Foster family. You know, we got this Billy Batson. I was like, okay, cool. Let's see where it goes. And then it goes to him peddling as Shazam. I was like, okay, that's from the comic book as well. And he saves a bus that he accidentally... Okay, this is from the... and literally from beginning to end, with minor alterations, I'll admit, there's minor alterations. But from beginning to end, it's the New 52 reboot of storyline of Shazam. And...
Right.
Speaking of, spoilers, we're going to be talking about...
It's too late.
Well, I mean... What we've talked about so far has been, for the most part, in the trailers, I think.
Yeah.
Give or take, plus or minus.
Yeah. I mean, you'll live.
Yeah. One thing that I did appreciate about this was, and they do it in the comic book, but they are very positive towards foster families, which film often very much just attacks the foster care system, which in many cases rightfully so, because it's a very broken system.
It's nice to see a positive story.
Yeah.
Because we sort of work in that field. We're not abusive.
Where the word group home isn't used as a 4-letter word.
Right.
And it's like, it's a breath of fresh air where it's a loving foster family. It's like, okay, good. Like, because there's always the terrible,
of course,
foster families out there for profit.
There's always the terrible families out there.
And so it's a breath of fresh air to see a large studio do a high budget film where foster care is taken seriously and as a benefit to the kids.
Right.
So that was nice, at least.
Yeah, that was nice.
Yeah. What did you think about Mark Strong as Dr. I'm totally blanking on his name, but the villain.
He was. He was fine.
Yeah.
The story clearly wasn't about him. He just sort of was there because a villain is a necessary part for the third act to have.
Yeah.
But he was well developed for the role that he was going to be put in, and they didn't try to make him more than he needed to be, which I appreciated.
Yeah.
But I wasn't like psyched when his scenes came up in the rotation. Mm-hmm. Also, his like 7 Deadly Sins guys. Why did so many of them have lolling tongues? I didn't like it.
So that
did not like the tongues.
That was one change that I didn't like from the comics. Is in the comics they make a joke about it in the movies that they're all just monsters, but in the comics they are they possess people that are of that sin, and so the envy is I forget what envy, but greed is this creepy guy who has a huge backpack who steals everything. It just they're good representation. Lust is a beautiful woman who is also a serial killer,
of course.
And so they're very on the nose representations. Whereas this one, I couldn't tell you which one was which.
There was one moment where they were like, well, obviously that's gluttony. And you're like, yeah, but that's the only obvious moment
it's
for
the
any of them for the
with
whole
teeth in its belly
movie.
Like, okay. No, yeah. So I found that a little weird.
But he himself was fine.
Yeah. It got kind of dark and creepy with that board member scene.
Yes.
And it made all the little 7-year-olds around me in the theater start to cry because that was out of nowhere super dark.
Yeah.
Like, I think the scene before was Zachary Levi flossing and trying to learn how to fly.
Right.
Then it's just like, oh, people are getting thrown out the windows
Past
and heads
trauma,
bitten off.
murder.
Yeah. Like, oh, shit. Okay.
No forgiveness. Yeah, it,
Yeah. It was, in my eyes, though, a very clear course correction.
For
DC.
Yes, thank you.
There was references to the greater world.
Right.
But there was nothing in it
that tied it into the cinematic universe they're trying to do.
Yeah, and honestly, like, I think they're keeping Momoa as Aquaman, and I think they're keeping Godot as Wonder Woman. Mm-hmm. But I don't think anything from this point on is going to be interlaced.
Yeah.
And I think
that's nice.
Joaquin Phoenix's Joker is kind of that first, like, true foray into the going back to the one shots that they did.
Which is, they've always done better at those.
They've always done better. I mean, Dark Knight is still my number one, not only superhero movie, but at least in the top 5 greatest movies for me of all time. And it's because it's part of a contained storyline.
Yeah.
And that's what DC does great, is their contained storylines, their story arcs through their non-canonical world. Like The Killing Joke. Completely non-canon, but it's one of the greatest comics that DC has put out there, which is why I'm so excited for Joaquin Phoenix is because it's heavily influenced by Killing Joke.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's concerning. I've read that one.
Yeah, it's going to be dark and traumatic and creepy, and I'm looking forward to it. But, I mean, it's their one-shots that are still talked about today.
Right.
And, I don't know, they jumped too fast into the connected
They wanted to be
universe.
Marvel, and nothing about them is Marvel.
Yeah.
The way they write things is differently, their strengths are different. The way Marvel writes sort of... I mean, obviously there's trauma for Marvel's characters, but they're more positive, hopeful, future-bent creatures.
Yeah.
And DC tends to focus more on traumatic pasts in the way they develop their heroes.
Well, and that's why their villains are always so
Which
good.
is fine. They both have their place, but the focusing on the past is such an introspective thing that it makes it hard to force all of these introspective, dark, introverted characters into a team and have us believe it.
Yeah. Definitely. But on that note, I think that's why I enjoyed Shazam so much, is because it echoed that altruistic, here's a good guy. Yeah, he has his character arc where he has to, grow up and realize that he's the superhero. But it always has that non-DCEU Superman feel of, well, I'm a superhero, so I've got to do hero things. Like, it's not a matter of whether I want to or not, or whether my brooding will get in the way. It's, I'm Superman, so I'm going to save people.
Right, so let's do this.
Yeah, and so no one else is Superman. No one else is going to save him, so I've got to do it. And so Shazam had that feel of like, well, at the end when it finally clicked that he is a superhero, it's like, all right, let's do this. Like,
fine, here we go.
Yeah. And I don't know. It was.
I did like its broader points. I thought it was really well acted, especially since you've got the main character as two different actors, and then eventually most of them as two different actors.
Yeah.
I thought that both of the young boys acted off each other really well. That one kid, the one who was in It, I really like him. He's great.
Jack Dylan Grazer. No.
Yes. Yeah. Great.
Jack Dylan Grazer. Yeah.
He was great. I also liked that Zachary Levi and the kid who played young him, they acted the same.
Yeah,
they did a good job of syncing up their choices. So I did enjoy the technical aspects. It was just little things like the fact that for some reason it was set at Christmas was a weird tone. The fact that they kept doing the like, oh, what juxtaposition is this death and Christmas music thing? Like just moments like that kept tweaking me out of it a little. But other than those, I did enjoy it.
It makes me wonder if it was pushed back. Was
thinking,
it supposed to be a release?
I was thinking the same thing. I was
release?
looking at the schedules, and there's no way they wanted to go up against any of the holiday releases on either side of this.
Yeah.
So I feel like they filmed it with Christmas in mind, and then just maybe here would be better. But it was still like a month before Marvel's really serious, really big release, which I don't think hurt it as badly as it hurt Captain Marvel.
No, yeah.
But I think they could have perhaps released more wisely.
Well, it didn't hurt Captain Marvel too much.
No.
But it definitely would have been a much bigger release at a different time.
Yeah.
And Shazam, I think, I saw it day after opening.
Right.
It was a packed theater. So, I think it's going to have a great opening weekend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw
it's got great Rotten Tomatoes scores, so.
Yeah, everything I've seen about it has been positive so far.
Yeah.
I saw it Thursday at 4 p.m. They're doing 4 p.m. screenings for day before release now.
Jesus.
And I'm going to see our next movie this week at 4 p.m. Apparently it's the new standard instead of 7.
So
went from like midnight to like
Thursday
10, and then it went up to 7, and then 6, and now it's basically just as soon as you get off work Thursday. You can see Friday's releases.
Jeez. What's the point anymore?
I mean, it's great for my schedule.
Well, yeah, but that's just weird.
It is weird. But that Thursday at 4 p.m. showing, packed. And not only packed with the worst kind of people. The kid next to me at one point started snapping along with the music.
What?
And as much as I physically turned my whole body to glare at him, he did not pick that cue up at all and just kept doing his thing. And then his father would turn and be like, "Oh, this just happened. Do you think that this is going to happen?" And he's like, "I will kill everyone here."
So I like to watch movies at Studio Movie Grill because I'm a fat kid and I like eating food. But the person to the front right of me, I almost poured my drink on him.
Good, yeah.
Not
I also
because
was at Studio Movie Grill, so maybe it's
maybe it's just our choices that
maybe
put us
we're
in these
bad at
situations.
choosing.
But this person finished their drink about halfway through the movie.
Uh-oh.
And then every 30 seconds or so went in for ice. And it's like...
Of course. Of course.